project his kingdom had ever seen. Herod the Great ruled the Holy Land as a dictator. He ruled through fear, and he lived in fear of assassination, treachery, and attack. Herod trusted no one, preferring instead to put his faith in bricks and mortar. Our investigators have already seen the scale of the defensive fortress he built on the clifftop of Masada, and this was something that would be repeated throughout the kingdom. He built himself no fewer than 11 fortresses. Now we've come to the most magnificent of them all, the place he named after himself, the Herodium. Herod began building here early in his reign, and work would continue for 3 decades. At first glance, the site appears to be the cone of a volcano. But appearances are deceptive. Ori Soltis is going to explore the extraordinary secrets of the hill. He is guided by local expert Marty Freelander. As they climb, there is no sign of any man-made fortification. Then, as they reach the summit, 2,460 feet above sea level, they see that the hill held a vast palace.
Wow, this is really something, isn't it?
Stupendous.
The Herodium is 650 feet in diameter.
We've got this enormous circular construction. Did he just build it on top of the hill, or, I mean, what happened?
He takes an innocent little hill on the edge of a desert, and he creates his own mountain here.
Wow.
Engineer Mark Telesnik specializes in large, earth-moving projects. He wants to understand exactly what Herod did here.
I'm here to figure out how this thing was built.
The first question is just how much of this is natural and how much is man-made.
What I'd really like to see is if we can scamper up here, try to look at the contact between the bedrock and the artificial cone. It looks to me that it's right about here at this terrace right here, and this is where the engineers started with the mountain. They started a hill here and built that. Okay, here we go.
But how was it done?
How does he take this mountain out of a hill? One thing is he takes the nearby hill over there and he shaves it off. Look at that nice flat top. That had probably been relatively the same size as this hill over here. He takes earth, rocks from over there, and he spills them up at the top of this mountain.
The driving force behind this project was Herod's ego. He wanted his palace to be the tallest, most imposing thing in the desert.
Let's see if we can scramble up here, get up to the top.
The steep slopes had a practical defensive purpose. It would be impossible to get a siege engine up here.
Whew, it's getting steeper and steeper.
We've moved up about 20 meters. Let's see if we can't take a reading here. Okay, Bubble, come here. Gotcha. Okay, that's about 45 degrees, so it makes it even more difficult for us to climb and for anyone else here who was trying to do this in the past.
Standing at the top, 400 feet higher than any of the neighboring hills, Herod had a clear view of Jerusalem 15 miles away. And Jerusalem would have been able to see him. The volcano-like shape was produced by banking earth up against the outer walls, which gained strength from their circular design. A second wall rings the first.
So this is where the guards would have patrolled as they're marching around,
So you're walking between the two walls?
4 towers marked the points of the compass. The eastern one was the largest by 3 stories. It held Herod's private quarters.
This is really the centerpiece. It fills several functions. Not only can you observe from outside, it's also very cool up there. And so if Herod wanted any refuge from the heat, and there he's got the room with the view, and it's the coolest room with the view.
You'll get the breeze, the only place with breeze.
Yeah.
Ori makes his way through an opening, which was Herod's personal entrance to the palace. It once led straight into a courtyard garden.
Well, forget about the rubble here. This is at the top of his flight of 200 steps.
Wow.
Here you'd walk in here, and then magnificent, he's arrived. Here, everything is different. It's green, it's plaster, there's stucco, and there's fresco. Beautiful gardens. You've got his entire apartments are here.
Across 2 floors, every luxury was installed. There was the elaborate bath complex that would be built in every one of his residences. There was a cold room, a warm room, a sauna, a Turkish bath, a plunge pool. The design of this room in particular is remarkable.
We're now in the tepid room, the tepidarium. But what's really fascinating and momentous is up on the top. You're looking at the first domed ceiling known to the Western world, built by Herod here.
So this is another instance of Herod being a visionary. He's the first one who really thinks of doing this, of giving us a kind of miniature heaven.
He makes this synthesis that no one's thought of before. Herod, right here.
And the top would have been open. It's an oculus, right? I mean, it's covered over now, but it would have been open. The light would have come in.
Right.
Very nice. And the whole thing probably would have been covered with frescoed plaster throughout.
Frescoes, geisha girls. It's a big pleasure dome.
This may be the first domed room ever constructed. It is a sign of the ambition and innovation that Herod demanded from his builders. Mark Telesnik studies the stone to understand how they achieved what was a massive engineering breakthrough.
Okay, very neat. The shape of the stones running through the top of the oculus here are quite interesting because they have to pick the compressive loads up in 2 directions.
All stone structures are held together by compression, the force of one block pressing upon another. In an arch, they spread in just 2 dimensions. In a dome, all the stones share the forces in every direction.
It'd be interesting how they actually did the building itself. Romans used formwork to make arches. I wonder if they used formwork to make a dome. But they also could have used sand, and by making a pile of sand in the right shape, and then build the brickwork above the sand, and then remove the sand. Interesting. This is great.
To provide a constant supply of water, Herod ordered the digging of vast cisterns.
Where are we coming to now?
This was a cistern we're walking into. A couple of times a year, there's a good rainfall. It would be held in the cistern that we're about to enter.
And I guess some of the guard rooms down here, no sunlight for the guards.
Right. Sorry, guys. But the Roman soldiers don't know what hit them. Now you're getting the idea of an engineering genius. Now, if you look sharp, you can see that there's a water line showing how far up Herod's cistern was full.
The Herodium was intended to show Herod's mastery of the desert. At its base, 38 acres of barren land were turned into a separate pleasure palace with sumptuous gardens. A colossal pool filled by its own aqueduct formed the centerpiece.
Now, the whole place would have been surrounded by gardens, very sumptuous, very, of course, impressive. Remember, you're in the middle of a desert, and he has created a temperate climate in the middle of the tropics here.
Larger than 2 Olympic swimming pools, small boats are said to have sailed on it. This construction in the desert, part oasis, part fortress, demonstrates clearly how Herod saw the world. He was a visionary. He had wealth and power, almost beyond imagining, and he needed more than anything else to demonstrate that power. He would overcome nature and the desert, and he would dominate his kingdom. But his ambition would not stop there. He wanted to compete on the world stage, to show that he was worthy of the favor shown him by his Roman masters. He would build a new city whose magnificence would rival Rome itself.